to succeed. Success is good. Yeah, failure is bad. Yeah, I was just reading incidentally reading the little packet of instant coffee. I was just reading the directions or reading the kind of blurb on it, and it was telling you how to make this instant coffee, this liquid instant coffee. And it says, you put this into a cup and you pour in the water, put in some milk, and then you shake it up, and you can pour it from one beaker to another if you want to show off. That's on the directions on the packet. If you want encouraging you to show off. So like atta in daily life is being encouraged. Like, look what I can do. I can, just like a chaiwala, expert chaiwala on the street. I can do that too. And so, even the food products are encouraging you to develop atta, self-view. So success and failure. And if you try to pour from one cup to another and it goes all over the place, oh my goodness, they think I'm an idiot, I'm a fool, I can't do this. What do they think of me? Failure is painful, right? Even pouring a cup of tea incorrectly, getting that wrong. There's a heartbreak with that. Or if you can do it right, you can do it just like an expert chaiwala. Look what I can do. And then the feeling of, yes, look at me. I've really got it. Look at that. I'm so good. And that's incredibly foolish. But we attach to that. Success and failure are extraordinarily important. Now, it's not as though we don't try to do things well in our life, but in terms of the theme of anatta in daily life, it's, I think, really important to look at how do we relate to succeeding and failing. What value do we give that in tiny, ordinary, everyday things like pouring a cup of tea, or our family life, or our business life, our relationships? How we create so much self-view around succeeding and failing, how failure is an absolute wrong and bad, evil, and how good and how success is turned into an absolute good, something of real and substantial value. Me succeeding, good, that is it. that becomes everything. So to look at how the mind relates to success and failure, I think is very, very important. When we are using the Buddha's teaching and looking at these areas, then the primary tool for this is insight meditation vipassana, and this is a method or a way that's developed from the Buddha's teachings and applied in a number of different ways. But one of the central features of insight meditation is training the mind to notice this eye-making and mind-making habit, and to learn to let go of that. But one of the aspects of this, which is sort of ironic and strange and painful, is that even in the effort to practice meditation, developing vipassana, there can be a lot of self involved in practicing meditation. My practice, how am I doing? I am succeeding, I am failing, I am doing well. I've had some insight. I've had no insight. And so I feel it's very helpful, and during this weekend we'll try to look at this to see how the mind relates to making effort, and how much self-view and I-making and mind-making gathers around the very aspect of making effort, doing something, giving direction to our life. And I talk about this a lot because it's one of the areas of Dhamma practice that's quite easily misunderstood, because when we relate to effort or giving direction or working in any way, if it's always based on self-view, then any kind of work, any kind of doing is stressful. And sometimes people misunderstand. They think, well, Buddhism is the path of peace. It's the path of non-attachment, of non-clinging. Therefore, don't do anything. Just sort of try to live a sort of a kind of quiet life, and don't decide anything, don't do anything, just don't involve yourself in anything, because it's understanding that any kind of doing or choosing or effort or decision making is somehow stressful, and that peace is taken to be coming from a kind of disengagement, dissociation, a kind of abstracting the mind, pulling the mind away, and just kind of quote unquote just watching, just observing, and not doing. So any kind of doing, any kind of engagement is taken to be some sort of intrusion upon peace. I would say this is a radical misunderstanding of the Buddha's teaching. This is a misreading of how things work. Because if it was the case that every kind of choosing or every kind of doing was an intrusion upon peace, how could Samma Sankappa, right intention or right resolution, how could that be part of the Eightfold Path? But Samma Vayama, right effort, how could that be part of the Eightfold Path? There has to be a way that we can make decisions, give direction, and that we can make effort, engage with life and world and our mind and meditation in all its aspects. There has to be a way that decisions can be made, direction can be given, and effort can be made. That is peaceful and is completely in tune with Dhamma. And I was, so that it's one of those strange things that some Buddhist practices or some Buddhist teachings, they, in a way, they incline towards a kind of dissociation, or what they call quietist, just trying to not do anything, or thinking any kind of action or any kind of engagement is somehow not practicing or not in tune with Dhamma. I'd say that's a sad and major misunderstanding. And so, in terms of our theme, I would say that the issue is that it's very easy for self-view to attach to decision making, to giving direction, to choosing, and it's very easy for self-view to attach to making effort, and that because it's in our ordinary everyday life, making effort and doing things is often automatically taken to be stressful. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Have a great weekend when you won't have to be doing anything. Yeah, I'm looking forward to retirement. I'm thank goodness it's thank goodness the meditation is over. You know, isn't it interesting? I often mention how the most peaceful moment of the meditation is when the bell goes. I'm not reading anybody's mind. It's just like, how did he know? But that's how it is, and it's not just because we can move our legs and stop being experiencing an achy body, but again, it's just how we are as human beings. When you have the oh my goodness, I don't have to be doing that meditation thing, therefore I can relax. But the meditation is supposed to be the peaceful bit. But the ending of the meditation is more peaceful because. The habit is I'm doing the meditation. I've got to be doing this thing, and when I don't have to do this thing, then it's peaceful. So that it's not the meditation that is stressful; it's the me and the me doing that is the stress making part of it, I would say. So that this again, this is a theme I'd like to explore for this weekend, is how to make effort, how to give direction to our lives in a peaceful way. And I say, with this theme of anatta in daily life, this is really a core part of it, because if peace only comes when I've just disconnected from everything and basically sort of switched off and say not paying attention or not involved in what we're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, or doing, then it's that really, I would say, is inclining towards vibhava tanha, the desire to get rid of. Like peace is coming from switching off or disconnecting, and that's vibhava tanha, the desire to get rid of, the desire for annihilation. And the Buddha highlighted that as this is that vibhava tanha is also a major cause of suffering, of dukkha. And if we try and find peace just by switching off and disconnecting and not involving, then we're setting ourselves up for more suffering. So peace, I would say, comes from right attitude, from the skillful attitude. And it's not a matter of whether we're working or not working, whether we're with people or apart from people, or whether we are making decisions or not making decisions. Peace is in the attitude, not in the realm of activity. Are people able to follow this? Do speak up and say, I lost you after 5 minutes, Ajhan. But hopefully that I'm speaking clearly enough to be able to be understood. Also, things are being recorded, so you can play it back and check it again with your friends. So in terms of the development of right effort, I feel this is a very important. Certainly, there's again a natural comfort that comes when I finished that job. You can breathe out, sit down, and there is a familiar and natural sense of comfort at some job, some activity being over, just as there's a familiarity and it's useful to have names, and we're using these everyday designations. But that I would say it's a mistake to think that peace only comes at the end of activity, or at the end of having to take responsibility, or the end of engagement, or the end of a sensory experience. But rather, peace is here and now. It's a possibility here and now. And so within this, the change of view that is useful or is necessary, I would say, is really highlighted in what the Buddha called the four samapadanas, the four right efforts or right strivings. And it's a way he analyzes effort and taking action. And that so these four are to restrain the unwholesome from arising. In Pali is samvara. So to make the effort to restrain the unwholesome, to have the intention to be living skillfully, to have wholesome attitudes of mind, wholesome words, wholesome actions. Samvara is restraint. The effort to restrain. If something unwholesome has arisen, the feelings of fear or anger or desire, jealousy or restlessness, if the unwholesome has arisen, then the second of these four right efforts, samapadanas, is to let go, pahanati, to relinquish. If the unwholesome has arisen, then the appropriate thing to do is to let go. Then the third of these samapadanas is to cultivate consciously the wholesome, bringing loving kindness into being, and also the quality of alertness, awareness, the cultivation of unselfishness, generosity, and so forth. So that's bhavana. Bhavana meaning to develop or to cultivate, to bring into being. And then the fourth is whatever is wholesome that has arisen, then to maintain it, to protect it, to support it, anurakana. So samvara, pahana, bhavana, anurakana. These are the four right efforts. So what makes them samma or right, or in tune with Dhamma, is that all of those four actions or four efforts can be brought into being and developed without any kind of self-view, without a me who's doing it, me who's restraining, me who's letting go, me who's cultivating, and me who is maintaining. That's why they are aspects of the Eightfold Path, that they are all, they can be guided and motivated and and strengthened without any kind of self-view, but rather what is the motive force, or that which say energizes and drives that, guides that, is mindfulness and wisdom. So that's the key difference, how we go from the self-centered point of view to the Dhamma-centered point of view, rather than I'm working, or I'm meditating, or I'm teaching with a strong sense of I am. It's right. It's instead through mindfulness and wisdom that those actions are taken, that those efforts are made, so that if there's a letting go of self in terms of daily life, our action, our family, our work, and living in the world, it's applying those four aspects of right effort, I would say, as the main part, and learning how to work in those ways free of I and me and mine, so that mindfulness and wisdom, that alert attunement to the time, the place, the situation, that's what guides us to speak or not speak. That's what guides us to when to put in effort in our work, and when it's time to stop and finish the work. That's mindfulness and wisdom is the guiding force, rather than me deciding to do this, me wanting that, me wanting to get away from the other. So that focus on how to make effort free from self-view, letting go of the self-centered habits and letting mindfulness and wisdom be the driving force. That's kind of the core of say the way of living or applying this principle of anatta in daily life. Maybe the last thing to say is also going back a bit, while we when we chanted the 5 subjects for frequent recollection, what they mean in English, probably you're all familiar with the chanting and these teachings, as I've heard. But it's good to reflect that what we're doing with these 5 subjects for frequent recollection is highlighting the areas of attachment. So I am of the nature to age, I am of the nature to sicken, I am of the nature to die. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. I'm the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. So this we recite these, and this is the Buddha encouraged for lay people and for monastics. Recite these every day. Remember these every day, because this is, say, highlighting where we get stuck. Yeah, I'm of the nature to age. We're all older than we were when we arrived here at 9 o'clock. We're all 45 minutes older than when we arrived here. Time goes on in that direction all the time, so that when we are reflecting on these things, I'm of the nature to sicken, I'm of the nature to die, based on self-view and on the habits of and attitudes of society, then the fact that we're getting older is something that, unless you're a little child waiting to grow up, can't wait to grow up. Generally, we resent it. Ajhan Jivaka was mentioning that there's a Botox clinic. There's, I think, Botox and hair loss, hair replacement and Botox clinic just opened up over the road from Dhammarama. So we've got the Dhamma on this side of the road and attachment to the body on the other side of the road. So, dyeing your hair, replacing the hair that's falling out, filling up your wrinkles, and this is like, no, I'm not going to be subject to aging. Jara Dhammami, no. But the Buddha is saying, be realistic. It's not as though we're trying to be unappealing or not good looking or not attractive to each other. We're not trying to look disgusting to each other. But the aging process is entirely natural. Nothing is going wrong with aging. With sickness, I often mention how I did a university degree many years ago in psychology and physiology. And at the end of studying physiology for 3 years, I was left with a feeling of, how can this thing work? There's just so many bits to go wrong. It's like billions of chemical reactions happening every day. How can we even walk and talk and move around? How does any of it work? It's so complicated. So many things can go wrong. So one of the few sort of Dhamma insights I left college was that it's completely ordinary that we get sick. It's kind of amazing that more of us don't get ill more often, and that the thing works as well as it does. So when people say, "How can I've got a very healthy diet. I exercise every day, Ajhan. How come I've got this illness?" It's like, statistically, it's extremely likely that things are going to go wrong with these bodies. Bhayadi dhammomi bhayading anatito. I am of the nature to sicken. Of course, it's that's the way nature is. This thing, our bodies can't work absolutely perfectly all the time. They are, and the COVID pandemic was a very dramatic case in point. So that, and I'm the nature to die. That we have a kind of internal system that pushes that away. And maybe in India and countries of Asia, it's more there's much more of a common realistic attitude towards death. But even in the Buddha's time, he's encouraging marana dhammomi, maranang anatito. I'm of the nature to die, because even with death all around, somehow you think that it won't happen to you. I remember in the I realize I'm in a room full of Indian people. I might be quoting the Mahabharata incorrectly, so this is a risk. But in my memory of the Mahabharata, when I think the 4 of the Pandava brothers have all been knocked out or killed, and then the last of the Pandava brothers is being questioned by this voice, this disembodied voice. And this voice is asking a series of questions, and he's got to get them all right, otherwise his brothers are going to be gone forever. And one of the questions that he's asked is, what is the most strange and mysterious thing in the world? And the answer that he gives is, the most strange and mysterious thing in the world is that even though every single one of us will die, we all think it's not going to happen to us. This is the right answer. So I agree that I acknowledge that might be a misquotation, but it's something along those lines. So that we take death as some kind of mysterious accident or intrusion on our life, when the fact is every single one of these bodies will one day breathe out and not breathe in again. That's not news. But even as I say those words, there's something that goes, oh, don't say that. When we walk into a room full of people, we don't think, oh, every one of us is going to die one day. It's like, oh no, there is, there's Savitri, there's Rajiv, there's Rahul. We kind of see each other and recognize each other, but that's not at the top of the list. Marana dhammomi, maranang anatito. So the Buddha is encouraging us with these recollections, not to be threatening or making us more depressed, but rather be realistic. This is the way nature works. And so these recollections are a very practical and powerful way of say, making that shift of view from the self-centered habits to the Dhamma-centered perspective, to think, well, yes, nothing is going wrong. If you have an illness, then certainly go to the doctor, seek treatment, take care of it. But that feeling of wrongness, or it shouldn't be this way, or this isn't fair, that's the dukkha that arises from the self-centered perspective. And when we shift to the Dhamma-centered perspective, then that feeling of wrongness, that feeling of it shouldn't be this way, that evaporates, and the heart is much more at ease with things. So these are some of the themes I'd like to explore during this weekend. For these thoughts for consideration this morning. So we can have a little break just to stretch legs for 5 minutes if people need, and then we'll have a meditation, begin a meditation, and have a guided period of practice, meditation practice, as the next part of the morning. So please do stretch your legs for a minute or two, and then we'll gather back for a guided meditation. No, sorry. I'm not going anywhere. big effort give any kind of direction in meditation. Just take a moment to notice how you feel right now. What does the body have as its physical sensations at the moment? Heavy or light? Heavy or light? Warm or cool? Aches and pains? How does the body feel? Not to make any comment about it, but just to notice, here is the body. In this moment, it feels this way. What's the mood of the mind? How does the mind feel? Sleepy, alert, sad, cheerful, interested, bored, agitated, quiet? How is it? There's no right or wrong mind state to begin from, but it's helpful, important to recognize what that starting point is. What's the material that we're working with? Similarly with the body, there's no right or wrong sensations for us to be experiencing, but it's important for us to know this is what we're working with, this is our material, this is where we're starting from. I always like to encourage this at the beginning of any period of formal meditation, sitting or walking. Take a moment, a minute or two, just to notice, how is the body? How is the mind? Where are we starting from? Like setting the directions on a GPS. Where's your starting place? Where are you now? And that indicates which direction to go to get to your destination. And from that basis of attuning the mind to the present experience, bring attention to the feelings of the body once more. And then where you feel that the body is out of balance, let the quality of awareness have its effect upon that. So if we bring attention into the body and we notice that we're sitting up very, very straight and our spine is quite tense and rigid, let the awareness be a softening agent. Not that, oh, I'm uptight, I need to relax. Just by being aware of that tension, let that awareness have its natural effect. Notice how the muscles soften, settle. Things ease up a bit. Still sitting upright, but without that tensing and stressing. Similarly, if you bring awareness to the body and you notice that you're slouched over, the back is bent, rather than, oh, yeah, I'm sitting in a really bad posture. I need to straighten up, straighten my back, sit up straight. All that I should, I must, to leave that aside, not to follow that, but rather just let the awareness have its effect. Noticing the body slouched over and slumped. Let the awareness be brought to those slouched, listless feelings. And then notice how the body sits up on its own. The awareness has its own effect of energizing. The body responds without me having to do something. The awareness is the integrating, balancing agent. So take a moment to let the awareness to appreciate all the different areas of the body, your face, your neck and shoulders, the trunk of the body, your chest, your stomach, your hip joints, the pelvis, then your legs. Wherever you attention to that part of the body out of balance, let the awareness be that integrative agent. You find you've got tension in the hip joints, your knees, your back, feeling that, knowing that, then things soften, relax. Your knees, your hip joints lose their tension. So we're appreciating the presence of the whole body in this way, knowing it, feeling it, without me trying to be relaxed or me trying to be energetic. Then energy and relaxation in a perfect balance are established. So mindfulness and wisdom is the guiding agent rather than me doing my meditation or me sitting in the right posture. There's no me or mine involved. And the mind's natural tendency is to drift, drifting towards sleepiness, dullness, switching off. Things go quiet, get still, then the instinct or the habit can be just to shut down. Nothing interesting going on, nothing important, okay, let's sleep. So the mind can easily drift towards dullness, sleepiness. Or it can drift in the other direction towards agitation, busyness, remembering what happened in the previous days, planning for next week, what I'm going to do tomorrow. That kind of drifting is completely ordinary, natural, but not everything that's natural is useful. So noticing that drift, the mind becoming sleepy and switching off, shutting down, or the mind getting busy, agitated, wrapped up in past and future ideas. Again, bringing awareness to that drift, noticing how the mind has been distracted, fallen asleep, switched off, got caught up, different ideas and feelings. Notice that, feel that. Then the letting go of those agitated thoughts happens based on mindfulness and wisdom, rather than me trying to make my mind be quiet. Similarly, if there's a drift towards dullness. So in England, it's 4:40 in the morning, still early there. So adjusting to this time zone, my eyes say it's 10 past 10 in the morning, but my body is saying it's just after 4:30. Just waking up. So rather than those feelings of sleepiness and dullness being an enemy or a problem, something I have to get rid of, noticing in this moment it's like this. So in bringing awareness to those ways that the mind drifts away, gets distracted and caught up, noticing those, feeling them. Then we bring the attention back to rest in the present. Or we can use many different meditation objects to help counteract that drifting habit. But the most accessible, most easily usable for most people is the natural rhythm of our own breathing. If we take a simple, steady object, then it's easier to notice when the drifting away from that present reality is happening. Feeling the rhythm of the breath, not the breathing being something that I am doing, or I'm doing the breathing, or I'm doing breath meditation. This is my anapanasati practice. Just let the body breathe on its own. It's been doing it for your whole lifetime already. Just let the body continue breathing. Nothing special. But let those sensations of the breathing be focused upon. Let that be right at the center of attention. Feeling the in-breath, feeling the out-breath. Then as the mind begins to drift, getting caught up in thought or memory, anticipation, as soon as that drift is noticed, be aware of that, feel that, and let the attention come back to the present, back to the rhythm of the breathing. Wherever you feel the breath most distinctly, whether it's in your chest or your nostrils, or on your lip, your abdomen, wherever it might be. Just wherever the breath is most obviously displayed, or most obviously felt, just go to that point. It's not important how many times the attention drifts away from the present. We can't undo the conditioning, the habits of the past. Those causes have already been planted. The busyness of our days running up to this weekend retreat, or other factors going on in our lives, those influencing factors are beyond our control, things that have happened in the past. So if during the course of a minute our attention is wandering 5, 6 times, 10 times, that's what we work with. No need to add any feeling of badness or wrongness or self-criticism. It's just, in this moment, it is this way. Whenever you find the attention drifting, no longer focused in the present, notice that, feel that, and then the attention recenters itself on the breathing. So this is a process of noticing distraction and then letting the response to that distraction coming from the awareness itself. Not from me trying to not be distracted, or me trying to practice properly. Don't have to follow those ideas and attitudes. Just let that knowing of the agitated, distracted, or sleepy state, let that knowing have its effect. Whatever you're experiencing, notice that. The mind continually drifts towards chattering, busyness. Notice that. feel the effects of that absorption into thinking and planning, remembering. Then let the relinquishing, relaxing, letting go happen as a result of knowing that distraction. There's no need for any I should, I must, I've got lost again, I'm such a useless meditator. All of that I-making and mind-making, no need to feed that or make anything of that. Just being aware of that distracted state, then allow the letting go to happen based on mindfulness and wisdom. Coming back to the center, being aware of this moment in this way. Or if the mind is continually drawn to sleepiness, obviously if we're sleepy, it's hard to even notice that because the mind is shut down, free of any kind of vitality or energy. But if there is a lot of sleepiness, notice that, feel that. That awareness of the sleepy states, the mind wanting to drift into unconsciousness, notice that, feel that. That the awareness of that habit, that drifting, that have its effect. Not, I'm getting sleepy, I've got to wake up, I'm drifting off again. Once more, no need for any I ams or me or this is my habit, my problem. Just here is this state. There's a knowing of it. Let that knowing have its effect. Waking up, coming back to the center, to feel the rhythm of the breathing again. When the mind returns to that quality of attention to the present, that centeredness, notice how this feels. Even if it's just for a second or two, notice what's the experience of the mind, the heart, free of distraction, free of clinging. How is it? What does this feel like? There's a simplicity, spaciousness, and naturalness. Similarly, when the mind is distracted, caught up in chattering thoughts, agitation, or lost in a sleepy state, when there is that awareness of the mind's distraction, notice how that feels. To be caught up in a plan or a memory, an opinion. How is it? The mind filled with grasping. How does it feel? Again, not to make any kind of self or I or me or mine out of it. Just notice the effects of clinging, grasping. This is the experience of dukkha. If there's grasping, then that quality of stressing, tension, suffering is always present. Notice that. This is the experience of grasping. Here is dukkha. And then when the heart is free of grasping, it's the experience of no dukkha, dukkha nirodha. The absence of that tension, that stressing. Notice how it feels. Let that speak for itself. We have a little bit of time now for any questions or clarifications that would be useful from, I said many words this morning already, and we're aiming to finish this morning session by 10:45. So please, any questions or things that would be useful to talk a little bit more about, clarify, then please don't be shy. Everything is perfectly clear. Yes.
Thank you, Ajhan, for your Thank you, Ajhan, for your inspiring talk. My question is, since you were talking about how we need to, how Buddhism is about putting in effort and not like hiding into like solitude or becoming very quiet. But when you are practicing Dhamma, there is sometimes a feel that, at least for me, like you don't want to get involved in too many like gatherings, or like You don't want to say work like, yeah, this is amount of work that I want to do, and this is the amount of money that is fine, and then I want to put more time into Dhamma practice. But there is also this trap of a habit of indolence of the mind. So how to best balance and live the Dhamma life and balance between the effective. That's the question in terms of whether you don't fall into the trap of indolence, but also try to live a quiet and practice well.
Yeah, that's really the central issue. Certainly in terms of practicing Dhamma, there's generally, for most people, there's an inclination towards solitude and silence and simplicity. When the Buddha was approached by Anathapindika about offering him a place to live and stay, the Buddha said, Tathagatas delight in empty places. So that was letting Anathapindika know, if you want to offer a place, then somewhere that's quiet, away from the city would be appropriate, would be appreciated. So there is that, and also that, again, using the Buddha as an example, it said that whenever he's with an assembly of people, or there's an event, then his mind inclines towards bringing things to a close, and sort of not extending things beyond what's useful, what's appropriate. But his mind naturally inclines towards bringing things to an end and then leaving people be, something along those lines. So that there is that inclination, which is quite wholesome and skillful, towards solitude, silence, and non-engagement, non-entanglement. When he was giving the advice to Gautami, to Mahapajapati Gautami, when she just become a nun under his guidance, and he gave this very beautiful series of the definitions of what is the practice of Dhamma and what is not the practice of Dhamma, then inclining away from complication, away from engagement was generally a sign. But it's also the fact that if you set up a duality in your mind, that work equals problems and suffering, not work equals happiness and freedom, then it's going too far. I would say is inclining towards vibhava tanha. If only there wasn't these people, if only there wasn't this stuff I have to do, then I would be happy. So, the Lord Buddha obviously gave a huge number of talks and was surrounded by people a lot of the time. And he made that point, saying, it's solitude is delightful and can be useful, but as he said in another encounter, the Tathagata is often surrounded by hundreds of monastic disciples, lay disciples, and is engaged with a lot of people, and so that if it's the appropriate thing, if it's useful, then we engage, and that's not an intrusion upon Dhamma or upon reality or upon peace, but it's seen as appropriate engagement, useful engagement in that time, that place, that situation. So it's the aspect of being caught up, or extending engagement just in order to be busy or to be charged up or to feel like you're somebody. That's where it gets difficult. If it's in a role of service or doing what is your duty or what is useful, what you're responsible for, then if we're carrying that out with an attitude of just generosity, of giving to the people that are in your family or in the workplace or in your company, but you're not looking to extend it. You're not trying to stay engaged and stay active, stay busy just to be active, but rather this is useful, this is beneficial. Okay, I'll do this, and then when it's over, fine, enjoy it, and then enjoy the spaciousness after. And so that that's the balancing of that is around really an attunement to what's beneficial at the time, the place, the situation, and that the mind that is peaceful is at peace in company with others and with activity, or when it's not there. So that if there's a skillful attitude in terms of practicing Dhamma, then we're quite happy to be alone. We're not sort of missing people or looking for the company of others in order to feel whole or feel complete. So sometimes people would ask me, when Ajhan Sumedho was living in Thailand, he said, do you miss Luang Por Sumedho? And I said, no. And they said, oh, well, surely, don't you respect him as your teacher? Yes, I love him very much. Well, don't you miss him? No. And because it's, if a person's around and you're together, then it's delightful, it's enjoyable. But if they're not around, then nothing is missing. So I'm not just trying to praise myself, we're just using that as an example, that if there's a skillful attitude, and then there's a knowing of, okay, this is the time to engage, this is the time to take action, this is the time to make decisions, and then you engage with that in a skillful way. And when there's again enough mindfulness and wisdom in the system, then it's okay. Now is the time. That's over. I don't need to be engaged. I don't have to be with people. I don't have to look after this. Okay, leave it alone. And there's the heart is at ease with that, with both. So it's that really attunement to the time, the place, the situation, sati mindfulness and full awareness, or that mindfulness and say intuitive awareness, as Luang Por Sumedho would put it. That's the key piece, and that if we're guided by that rather than the feelings of I should, or this is the formula I should be following, or this is the right thing for me to do as an idea or as a program, if it's coming from that, or I've decided I'm going to do so much, I'm going to be so much, and I'm going to be connected, engaged so much, then those, if we operate like that, it's always going to be disharmonious, and things are always going to be a bit out of tune. But if we genuinely learn to be guided by mindfulness and wisdom, mindfulness and full awareness, then there's a comfort, there's an ease when it's time to do things and be with people. Fine. If it's time to be alone, then you're fine. It's a balancing act, but it's not coming from a formula or from an idea. It's coming from that attunement. I don't know if that's helpful, but it's when the Buddha was praised for his quietness and his seclusion, he said, well, actually, if the Tathagata was to be praised for being secluded, then that would be praising him for the wrong reason, because often they're spending time with hundreds of thousands of people. So, if you're praising the Tathagata, the Buddha, but you're praising him for the wrong reason. So it's not, peace doesn't come from solitude or silence, but peace comes from right attitude, right understanding. Does that make sense?
Ajhan, there is one question over YouTube. May I ask?
Sure.
Yeah, so how to use nada to deepen the journey? Please share some of your relevant experiences with nada related to the above question, if possible.
It was listening to nada in relationship to, could you read the?
Yeah, how to use nada to deepen the journey?
Deepen the journey. Deepen the journey. Okay. Well, so for those who are familiar, nada in the say the traditional practice is it's what they call the inner sound, and for many people, this is something that can be discerned in the background of one's hearing. Like I can listen to it now as I'm speaking to all of you. I've been using it as a practice for many years. And so this inner sound or inner vibration, the nada, known as listening to it is known as nada yoga. So that's always present, whether you're in a meditation hall, whether you're by yourself in a forest, whether you're on your commute on the metro into work, or whether you're at in a family dinner or a business meeting or carrying out a surgical operation or teaching a class, it's always present. And so it can be a kind of reminder as a background, a backdrop to all experience, so that if you use listening to the nada, then it reminds you that this is an experience. This is a pattern of perception in this moment. Okay, we're sitting in the shrine room at Dhammarama in Delhi, but this is a collection of perceptions: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, arising and passing away. It keeps things in a context in that way. It keeps a perspective. The tendency of the mind is to get drawn into a conversation or the work you're doing or the situation, the perceptions around you, the dog's barking or the class that you're preparing, whatever. But then the listening to the inner sound, the nada, is like, oh yeah, this is just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. This is all happening in the field of experience, the field of perception. So it helps to sustain that perspective of recognizing that the world is made up of perceptions, and that the result of that is the mind is less drawn into being absorbed into particular perceptions, things that we're afraid of, things that we're attracted by, things we're irritated by, things we have opinions about. Oh, it's just a visual form, it's just a sound, it's just a flavor. Aha. And so that the cultivating the nada yoga, it's a way of sustaining that, oh, right, it's just this, and that the mind is less drawn into the detail of perception and is more attuned to the suchness, the tatata of each moment. That's a short exposition on nada. So I think we'll wind things up for the formal session for this morning there, and then we'll have the meal offering shortly, and then we'll gather back together again for the next group meditation at 1 o'clock this afternoon.